Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I am Brian Nemhauser. You can find me just about anywhere on social, including here on YouTube at Hawk Blogger. And it's Friday. It's Friday, and it's kind of the dog days of draft season where we've probably covered every player and every scenario that we possibly can, but we're still a couple weeks away. A couple weeks away from the NFL draft. We will have a awesome time draft day over the draft few days. When that happens in Green Bay, I will be at the VMAC live streaming from there. We'll have Jeff Simmons, we'll have Evan Hill, we'll have Nathan Ernst. We'll see how that all comes together, but we'll hang out with you for the entire draft. So this is where you're going to want to be. Make sure you set your calendars to be with us. We have a great time, and honestly, our track record's pretty darn good. You can go back and look every single pick over the last few years, watch our reactions instantly to those selections. We've definitely got a lot wrong. We've got a lot right, but there's no hiding on our live stream for the draft. We are just going to react, and you're going to see those reactions. Different twist this year is that I will then be talking to those players 15 minutes after they're selected because I'll be down at the VMAC and can participate in that. I'll also be able to ask questions of John Schneider and Mike McDonald at the end of each draft day. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to hanging out with you all. If you haven't already, give the show a like, click subscribe, and join over at patreon.com/hawkblogger. We have such an amazing community growing at Discord. You can either be a club level member on YouTube, club level or higher, or a Patreon member at patreon.com/hawkblogger. Get access to the Discord channel, hang out there. It is a lot of fun, a lot of great conversations going on. A couple things I want to talk to you about today. So we've got some fun sound from Sam Darnold. We've got some interesting comments from John Schneider. I will play all that for you today. But before we do that, I think it's important to catch up on what's been kind of a flurry of activity over at the VMAC in terms of new draft visitors. And I did a show a few weeks ago that shared with you why visits matter. There's going to be people that tell you that visits are a smokescreen or visits don't matter or whatever. I don't believe that that's true. It does not mean that there's a one-to-one correlation between who is visiting the VMAC and who is going to be drafted. That is certainly the case. But it has definitely been a good indicator of late of a player that they might be interested in taking, especially early on. So I'm going to refresh our memories about from the 2024 draft, 2023 draft, 2022 draft, what types of visits mattered. And then I'm going to update you all on who the latest 30 visits are, as well as who are the guys that they have visited with multiple times. And there's a few. There's a few that they have visited with multiple times, and I think that's going to be important to catch up on. So, without further ado, I wish everybody a good morning in chat that I see is saying good morning. Good morning to all of you. Hopefully you are ready for a great weekend ahead. All right. So you saw this again. This is from a couple episodes back, but I think it's worth going over again. This is a tracker I put together that shows of the players that the Seahawks drafted in each of the last 3 drafts, what kinds of visits did they have with those players? And so you can see right here, last year, Byron Murphy was their top pick. He was a Senior Bowl selection, although I don't believe he attended. So they did have a combine visit, and they had a 30 visit. So they met with him multiple times, and he was drafted 16th overall. Christian Haynes, they met with him at the Senior Bowl. Tyrese Knight, they met with him at the Senior Bowl. They also had a 30 visit. AJ Barner, they met with him at the Senior Bowl. DJ James, met with him at the Senior Bowl. Nehemiah Pritchett, Senior Bowl. Satawa Lamea, Senior Bowl. Are you getting the picture here? Senior Bowl does matter. And then Mike Jarrell had a 30 visit. So every single one of the players that the Seahawks drafted last year, they had a visit with of some sort. So yeah, visits do matter, and they are indicative of the team's interest in that player. Of course, you can't predict which players are going to be available at which slots and whether those guys get selected, but they do matter. All right, next, the 2023 draft. Devin Witherspoon, 30 visit. Jackson Smith-Njigba, as far as we know, did not have a visit. But again, I will remind you on the combine visits in particular. Unless someone asks every player, you don't know. And you don't know sometimes if the players are going to be revealing of those. So I think the combine visit column in general is the least accurate. Derek Hall, Senior Bowl. Zach Charbonnet, combine visit. Anthony Bradford, 30 visit. Olu Oluwatimi, Senior Bowl. Mike Morris, combine visit. Cam Young, no known visits. Jarek Reed, 30 visit. The angry little elf, as John Schneider referred to him as. And then Kenny McIntosh, Senior Bowl. So again, 2023 draft. Every player other than JSN and Cam Young had a reported visit of some sort. Visits matter. All right. Let's look at the 2022 draft. Charles Cross, we don't have any known visits. Boye Mafe, a Senior Bowl visit and a 30 visit. Ken Walker, no known visits. Abe Lucas, a Senior Bowl and a combine visit. Kobe Bryant, 30 visit. Reek Woolen, Senior Bowl. Tyreek Smith, Senior Bowl and combine. Bo Melton, the receiver, Senior Bowl. Derek Young, 30 visit. So again, the only two players in that draft class that they didn't have a reported visit with, and again, we don't know if they still visited, might not have been reported, but the only two players without a reported visit were Charles Cross and Kenneth Walker. Visits matter. So let's get into it with this is the list of combine visits, and this is essentially just the names that myself and Nathan Ernst were able to verify when we were there. And again, we were the only people asking about the Seahawks. We were not able to talk to every player. So this is almost certainly not a comprehensive list of who they met with at the combine. And it's a pretty long list. So you've got Gray Zabel, Tyler Booker, Tate Ratledge, Jonas Savaiinaya, Jackson Dart, Jared Wilson, Donovan Jackson, Armand Membu. Wouldn't that be nice? Azariah Thomas, the cornerback. Kobe Bryant, the cornerback. Terrence Ferguson, the tight end. Jalen Conyers, the do-everything Wildcat quarterback tight end. Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon, the offensive lineman. Jalen Rivers, offensive lineman, offensive tackle. Will Campbell, again, wouldn't that be nice? Cam Williams, offensive tackle. Clay Webb, offensive lineman, interior. Logan Brown, offensive tackle. Jalen Knoll, wide receiver. Shamar Stewart, the edge rusher, and Nick Emenwari, the safety. So obviously we were asking a lot of the offensive linemen, and they met with a lot of the offensive linemen. All right? But this is the updated 30 visits. The updated list of 30 visits. And you guys in chat, there might be names I've missed. It's absolutely possible that I've missed some of the names. But these are the ones that I have so far in my tracker. And once I go through these, I will walk you through some of the names that have been listed multiple times or they've met with in multiple situations. So the 30 visits that we know of. Nick Emenwari, the safety. Savion Williams, the wide receiver / running back kind of Cordero Patterson style player. Tyler Shuck, the quarterback. Asa Pohl, offensive lineman. That's a local visit because he's a Washington State guy, so that doesn't count against your 30 limit, but it is a visit. Bryce Cabledew, the offensive tackle. Jared Wilson, the center. Chase Lunt. Are they going to go back to UConn 2 straight years after taking Christian Haynes? Chase Lunt, the offensive tackle. Nash Jones, also offensive lineman. Siobhan Ravel Jr., the cornerback. Mason Taylor, the tight end. Michael Williams, the edge rusher. Jalen Milroe, the quarterback. Ty Robinson, the defensive tackle. Dylan Fairchild, who is another Georgia offensive interior lineman. So they've met with Tate Ratledge, Jared Wilson, and Dylan Fairchild. And then Jackson Slater. So the list has grown. When I first did this a couple weeks ago, the list ended at Bryce Cabledew of the names. It was 5 guys. It is now up to 8, 11, 14, 15 names. A couple of those names are local, so they don't count against your 30 limit. They will make 30 visits. So, and this also does not include virtuals. I have people sending me names of guys that met with virtually all the time. I don't generally track that as much. I know in conversations with a source that I've got that knows for sure they've met multiple times with Omar Norman Lott, but they have not scheduled a 30 visit with him. Omar Norman Lott has been traveling the world, has like 10 30 visits. It's crazy how much that guy's in demand. I think that guy may go a lot earlier than people think. So, before I get into kind of which of the names they met with multiple times, I'll talk to you about that in a second. This list that's grown, I mean, some of the names are pretty interesting. Jared Wilson, we've talked about as a center, my favorite center in this class. Good to know that they're like, I might even do this for you guys if I can find it really quickly. Of course, if it takes too long, I will abandon. But Jared Wilson had a great visit with the Seahawks. And let me see if I can find the video. All right, 1 second. We're almost there. All right, I'm going to share this with you guys. And we'll play a little Jared Wilson sound from the combine so you guys can hear from the guy, a guy that I really like. Who's the center that you really respect, and who's a defensive lineman you've gone against that you respect?
Offensive lineman in college?
No, and pros,
pros.
On the center. And then
I always watched Jason Kelsey, man. Even though he was a smaller body, I just loved the way he moved out in space. He pulled around, always leading the pack. He was athletic, in close quarters, moved his feet. I just love that. And then defensive lineman in college.
That you played against, yeah.
There's a lot of great ones in the SEC. Man, Walter Nolan, he's a beast. His body control is out of this world. He's definitely the best guy I played against this year. For sure.
Do you have a preference, gap scheme, zone, anything that you like the most?
I definitely say inside zone. It's just so fun moving my feet. You know, it's going square over, securing the gap, bumping over three tech, the two eye, and then getting square up on the linebacker and getting physical with him.
And have you met with the Seahawks this week?
I have met with the Seahawks.
How did that go?
It was cool, man. I love the Seahawks. I love Steve Hutchinson, man. He's a cool dude, good dude to learn from. They tested me really well in there, and then I did well.
When you were young, did you get to go up against?
I love that from Jared Wilson. And there's a point I asked him a little bit about Tate Ratledge. We won't go into that, but that was fun as well. So that guy is just, man, talk about a guy that I just would be disappointed if they weren't interested in him. He's the whole package. And not only is he this great guy, but also was the top ranked zone blocking center in football last year in college football, and put up insane numbers at the combine as an athlete. 4.8, 4.40, just a mover for sure. You want fast off the ball, running off the ball. This is a guy that can do it. And he seems enamored with the Seahawks as well. So that's a guy that, who knows? Maybe for whatever reason he won't be there at 50 or 52. Maybe they don't think that they want to draft a center at that, and they'll want to wait until the third round. Maybe he just won't be there. But that would be one of the players I'd be most excited for the Seahawks to draft. And I was really excited to hear that even after John Schneider had said, hey, not so sure about the center position in this class, they still are bringing in Jared Wilson for a 30 visit. Chase Lunt's an interesting one. Really athletic offensive tackle, zone scheme. This is why Christian Haynes, people are like, hey, he's going to be better this year because they run his outside zone scheme, and that's what Christian Haynes did his best work in. And Chase Lunt is in the same offense. So he's another absolute, like, he's not a day one, probably not a day two guy, but could be a day three swing tackle kind of pick. Nash Jones, similarly, I think this guy could be a undrafted free agent kind of, like, remember, 30 visits are not just people used to call them top 30 visits. They're not top 30. It's not top anything. It's, you have 30 visits, you use them how you want. Sometimes they use these visits to talk to the guys that they are wanting at the beginning of the draft. Some of them are guys they want to do medical evals on. Some of them are guys that they want to, like, learn a little bit from, medical otherwise. And as a matter of fact, probably a good time to refresh that sound I have from John Schneider about how they use 30 visits. So let me pull up that sound real quick. But I think that some of these names, like Nash Jones, is an example of a guy that most likely is going to be somebody that they'd look at, if at all, they look at for, undrafted free agent kind of stuff. So, well, it's looking like I won't be able to pull open my project. So let me see if I can find this really quickly. Schneider. MP3. I'll see if I can find it. If I can't, we'll just keep moving. Oh, well. All right. I played it for you before. You probably don't need to hear it again. So Siobhan Ravel Jr., cornerback, lanky cornerback, a guy that's absolutely like early second round. If you're wanting to get him, he's going to be a second round pick. Some people might have him as a first round pick. So, that could absolutely be a medical. He's coming off an injury, and they might wanted to check on his status and get hands on him. Mason Taylor, the tight end, son of Hall of Fame edge rusher Jason Taylor. I loved what I saw from him at the Senior Bowl. Great hands, big body, has the potential to really grow into a man at the tight end position. Glad to see that they're looking at him. Glad that they're looking at tight ends. Mykel Williams, edge rusher who going into the season was considered maybe the top player in the draft overall, is now falling, has had not great athletic testing. Absolutely could be there for the Seahawks at 18. They're doing checks on edge rush. Then you've got Jalen Milroe, who we've talked about quite a bit. That is, of these names, their second quarterback that they're bringing in for a 30 visit. I've got some sound for you on John Schneider talking about the quarterback class a little bit later. Ty Robinson is a guy I really like as a defensive tackle. And this is, again, probably not the best use of all of your time. If I had this queued up, it would be better. But do I have it under my members only videos? Yeah. So there's some video of Ty Robinson going through drills that I loved. And he got my attention for sure when doing that. So looks like it's not easily findable here. Oh well. So I'll do that another time, especially if Ty Robinson ends up becoming a selection for the Seahawks. But he was big number 90. If you are a club level or higher member, you can get access to the entire 1v1s from the Senior Bowl is up there. So yeah, I would suggest checking that out if you want to see some of that. Oh, here we go. Let me see if I can find 90 doing some drills here. He went up against a few different guys and just like stood out for me. So we'll pass on that for now. Dylan Fairchild, again, the other guard for the Georgia Bulldogs. We've talked about Jared Wilson as the center. We've talked about Tate Ratledge as a guard. This is the other guard. And then Jackson Slater, who they met with a couple times at the Senior Bowl and have met with on a 30 visit, is also a local. I think he's a local, doesn't count as an official 30 because I think he went to school in Washington as, not as a college, but at high school. So those are the guys that they've met with on 30 visits. Now let me talk to you through who they've met with multiple times. Before I do that, I see a question. I'll bring this up in Super Chat. So Gingerbread Man says, I can't seem to figure out how to become a YouTube member. Explain if you can, please. So you should have the option to join as a YouTube member throughout the channel. There should be a join option. And since I have like one moment here, I think I can get for you the join link. I'll give you a link that you click. And when you click on this, it will get you to a page where you can join if you'd like to join. So here we go. Here is the join link for YouTube membership. Putting it in chat. And if you click on that, that should take you to the path to be able to join as a YouTube member. Remember, club level or higher gets you access to the exclusive videos, also gets you access to the Discord channel. If you want to take a moment, please like and subscribe. Also, if you're listening on audio, please take a second to give the show a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're getting your podcast. Really trying to drive up the podcast rating. I think last time I checked, we were only at like 4.4 on Apple Podcasts. A lot of really old reviews dragging that down from when I was working full time and kind of did this off and on, and people got annoyed that it wasn't consistent enough. but it's very consistent now. So I'd love it if folks would just take a second and give it a 5-star review. It'd really help out. Appreciate it. All right. Let me get back to the topic at hand. So, who are the players the Seahawks have met with multiple times? Nick Manwari. They had a 30 visit with. They met with him at the Combine. Savion Williams. They met with him at the Senior Bowl and had a 30 visit. Now, the question I have with Savion Williams is he was a Senior Bowl invite, but I don't believe he actually participated. I don't remember seeing him there. So that may be incorrect. Let me change that to a slash in my tracking. I would bet with Savion Williams, one of the things they're checking on is just how much he loves the game and how much he's a character. Like, character fit is like a loaded term, but I'm guessing they're trying to figure out exactly who he is as a guy, because it's pretty clear who he is as a player on the film. Tyler Shuck, quarterback. Obviously, they met with him at a 30 visit. I don't have them having met with him any other times. Mason Taylor. I told you, I saw him at the Senior Bowl. That means the Seahawks saw him at the Senior Bowl. So they've done a 30 visit and a Senior Bowl visit with him. Great guy. I think going to be one of the highest floor tight ends in this class. He's going to be a guy you will not regret adding to your roster. I believe he's going to be a great pro. Jalen Milroe. Met with him at the Senior Bowl. Now they've got a 30 visit. And as critical as I've been about his Senior Bowl performance, I understand why they're doing their due diligence on this guy. Jared Wilson, we talked about, 30 visit and Combine. Ty Robinson. That is a 30 visit and a Senior Bowl visit. Then Jackson Slater, they met with a couple times at the Senior Bowl. Again, a 30 visit. Omar Norman Lott, who they met with at the Senior Bowl, as I said, has had a number of virtual conversations with the team. Then, those are the 30 visits that have been done multiple times. Gray Zabel, they met with at the Combine and the Senior Bowl. Tyler Booker, Combine, Senior Bowl. Or sorry, not Tyler Booker. Tate Ratledge, Combine, Senior Bowl. Tyler Booker, they did meet with at the Combine, but they have met with him twice as far as I know. Jonah Savaniaya, Combine visit, Senior Bowl. Jackson Dart, Combine, Senior Bowl. Armand Membu, Combine visit. I don't know if they got a chance to meet with him at the Senior Bowl because he got sick. He didn't participate, but he was there, so it's a question mark. My guess is they probably didn't meet with him there. Probably doesn't matter anyway because he's probably going to be like a top 5 pick. Clay Webb, they met with at the Combine and the Senior Bowl. Jalen Knoll, the wide receiver, Combine and Senior Bowl. Shamar Stewart, Combine, Senior Bowl. So again, these are the names of the guys that I have confirmed they've met with, like that based on reports or my own reporting, they've met with twice. Nick Manwari, Mason Taylor, Jalen Milroe, Jared Wilson, Ty Robinson, Jackson Slater, Gray Zabel, Tate Ratledge, Jonah Savaniaya, Jackson Dart, Clay Webb, Jalen Knoll, Shamar Stewart. Those are the names that I've got some confirmation that they've met with multiple times. Some good names in that list. And welcome, Gingerbread Man. You made it. You are a member. Welcome to the crew. Glad to have you. And yes, someone's saying Slater was a local invite. Yes, mentioned that already. Same with Issa Pohl, also a local invite. So there's some Seahawks on that list. We don't know their names yet. John Schneider doesn't know their names yet because you don't know how the draft's going to fall. But if you're talking about guys at 18, at pick 18, Nick Emanwari has to be on that list. Michael Williams is a guy that, if they want him, probably is an 18. Jalen Milroe might have to be a pick at 18 if that's the guy that they like. I'm not sure he's going to last. And then Jackson Dart might need to be at 18. Gray Zabels almost certainly would need to be at 18. Shamar Stewart would have to probably be at 18. Those are the guys that they've met with multiple times. So there's a number of names there. I like a lot of those names. There's a couple of them I'm not thrilled about. I'm not a huge Michael Williams guy. Especially at 18, I'm not a huge quarterback guy in this class. So Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe. But let's take a moment to listen to John Schneider talking about the quarterback class. He was on with Bob and Dave Wyman yesterday. And here's him talking about basically Bob Stelton saying, "Hey, this isn't really a deep quarterback class. So what do you think about that?" And here's John Schneider with his answer to that question.
Yeah, I'd be careful when you hear people say this isn't a great job.
It's been said by kind of everybody.
It's a bit, yeah. I mean, heck yeah.
Everybody knows.
Every
John.
team that's been out there talking about it on national television, right? Yeah. No, I think it depends on the team, how they view the player, the quarterback. Again, how you're going to acquire him, where you're going to acquire him. But bringing him through the building is another. It's really about, okay, more time. We need more answers. We need more time with this player based on the questions that we need answered in terms of the vision we see for this player and the fit. It's not necessarily like it's separate from how you can acquire the player on draft weekend.
So interesting comments there from John Schneider. I think they were taken out of context a little bit on social media. When I first saw them, I certainly reacted to it a different way. I don't think John's saying this is a great quarterback class. I think he's saying that depending on when you take them and what you have in mind and how you're going to use them, it's not as bad as some people are saying. Okay, like I buy that, I just still, I'm not sure I see, other than if Jalen Milroe figures out how to function in an offense, in a pro style offense, I'm not sure I see a lot of true high, like 5-star potential. Jackson Dart, I'm just not sure I see. I see him as like a Baker Mayfield maybe at his highest end, which isn't bad. But yeah, I'm not sure I see like the next tier potential there. And then Tyler Shuck, I think, is maybe the most polished of them all. He does have the age thing that plays a factor, but he's mobile as well. I see him as like, he's got a little bit of like Carson Wentz-ish to him. People forget that Carson Wentz was pretty mobile as a big guy, but I think there's a little bit of him when Carson Wentz was good in Tyler Shuck. Tyler Shuck makes some pretty crazy throws that I think he's got maybe a little bit more interesting of an arm than Carson Wentz did. But, like there's some guys that are of interest. Kyle McCord, we've talked about. The most likely scenario is that these quarterbacks will be backups. Like, I'm not convinced Jalen Milroe has more to work with than Justin Fields And Justin Fields has been very mediocre. I would say it's certain that Jalen Milroe has less to work with than Caleb Williams, especially as a passer. Caleb Williams was on the struggle bus a lot of his rookie year. So I don't know. I mean, Trevor Lawrence was a generational quarterback prospect. He has been mid. So it's hard to find really good quarterbacks. I'm totally in favor of taking one. I'm just not convinced that any of these guys are worth stretching into the first round to take. I'm also not even sure I'm convinced that any of them are worth trading up to the top of the second round to pick. And my guess is, if I had to bet money, that's what I think John Schneider is imagining. I think he's talking about using some of his extra draft capital, moving into the late 30s or the early 40s and snagging one of these guys. I'd rather have the extra pick, personally. But I won't kill him for it. It's just not what I'd want to do. I'd rather the extra pick. So that was John Schneider talking about the draft class, the quarterback class. He also made a comment, not a big comment, but I think one that's worth just kind of hearing his thoughts on, which is expectations for a player picked at 18. And here's what John Schneider said about expectations for a player picked that high.
The expectation at 18 is the guy's a starter for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And it's, there's grades throughout that, give you different guidance.
It sounds like
He wanted to be tight-lipped about their grading system for whatever reason. That's fine. But, Byron Murphy, pick at 16 last year, wasn't a starter, but played significant snaps. Devin Witherspoon, pick at 5, obviously was a starter. JSN essentially was a starter at pick 20. Year before that, Charles Cross, starter at pick 9. I think it was pick 9. So when you're talking about, like, John Schneider's looking at guys that are going to be starters, and that could affect some of the offensive line rankings. Like, he may not be certain that some of these guys would be starters on this team, which would make it less likely that they're going to pick an offensive lineman at 18. I'm not convinced that they're going to take an offensive lineman at 18. And if you saw my show yesterday, John Schneider's draft history, first of all, I really hope you watched that, because it's very telling. John Schneider kind of lets you know what his draft philosophy is based on what he's done for the last 16 years. He has not taken a guard before the third round, ever. So to then jump and take one at 18, don't know. Don't know if he's willing to do that, even if all of us would want him to do that. So that was John Schneider, again, saying expectations are that if you're picked at 18, you're expected to be a starter. There wasn't a lot of other things that I found in the John Schneider show yesterday that was worth really going over, so I'm not going to spend too much time on that. There was a fun interview with Sam Darnold. Maybe fun just because I think it's fun to kind of try to start to get to know Sam Darnold. He is at the Masters. For people that don't know, golf tournament, most famous golf tournament. And he was interviewed by Laura Ratledge, sorry. No, Rutledge. I was right the first time. Laura Rutledge. And there's a couple things that they talked about that I thought were fun. It was just a quick interview. Here is Sam Darnold talking about his friendship with another quarterback, Josh Allen.
Yeah, we're all right. You know, sometimes we hate each other, sometimes we love each other. It's that kind of relationship. So.
Josh didn't want to come on. That's okay because we have you, but we should get him like heckling you from the back over there.
Yeah, he already is. Yeah. He's back there giving me faces.
Giving you weird faces. I know,
yeah.
Seriously. So what is the plan today? Do you guys have a certain golfer that you want to follow around, or what's your deal?
We're just kind of walking. You know, I think we've seen a total of 8 or 10 golf shots. We've just been kind of walking the course and just hanging out, having a good time, seeing some people that we know on the course. And like I said, it's just a beautiful day to be able to come out here, walk around, and see some people that we know. And like I said, just see some of these guys compete at a really high level. It's always fun to watch.
I think one of the cool things, you know, is who was it that I had on that just said that Sam Darnold's just a normal guy, and that maybe it's going to be nice to have just a normal guy after years of maybe higher maintenance guys. Might have been Brady Henderson. I can't remember, but it comes across in that conversation. Sam Darnold's just at the Masters, walking around with a buddy, and he is watching a little bit of golf, but also just kind of hanging out and having fun. And it's a beautiful course. It's a beautiful place to be. And it's incredibly exclusive to be there. It's not easy to get tickets to the Masters. And he was talking about, like, what are his must-have food choices at the Masters, and here was his answer to that.
Have for you here.
Egg salad sandwich. Yeah, I got to have it every time I come. You know, it's you know, every time I get there in the morning, it's an egg salad sandwich, a water, and the apple slices. You know, that's kind of the breakfast when I get into the gates, and you know, I guess that's kind of the tradition that I've kind of started for myself here.
I don't know.
I'm not sure there could be any more of a bland choice of food. Excuse me, I'm still getting over being sick, folks. Sorry. For a guy that I think some people are like, man, he doesn't have like much of a personality, for his go-to food choice to be egg salad and water and apple slices. I don't think that's going to change anyone's perspective on that front so much, but funny nonetheless. And then conversation, I think they talked a little bit about his time in Minnesota and his experience there, and I thought there were some interesting comments. Let me play those for you.
Yeah, you know, I think I learned so much, you know, from that entire staff, you know, from KO to Josh, Wes Phillips, Grant Udinski, and then all the players that I was able to share that locker room with. I mean, that's, you know, some of my favorite memories that I had playing football came from last year to this date. And but like you said, I'm very excited to be able to take that to Seattle and, you know, start a new chapter of my life and my career over there.
So, you know, this is a guy that was pretty beloved by the coaching staff and the locker room. And they wanted him back, even though they have a top 10 pick spent on a rookie quarterback, or no longer rookie quarterback. And I think that says a lot. And Kevin O'Connell's been pretty glowing in his comments about Sam Darnold. I am very curious. I'm very curious. And I think one of the things that as a competitor, I know Sam really wanted about this opportunity in Seattle is he's heard that people have kind of diminished what he did last year as that was Kevin O'Connell, that was Justin Jefferson, that was the situation, and Sam Darnold's still just a mediocre player. I know that he wants to demonstrate otherwise, and I think it's going to be interesting to see Seattle. If he proves that what he did last year was as much about him as it was about his supporting cast, the Seahawks, for the second time in a row, got the best quarterback contract in the NFL in terms of value for money. Geno Smith, no matter what you think of Geno Smith, his contract and what they got for his contract was the best deal in the NFL outside of rookie deals. I mean, of course, rookie deals are great, but I'm talking about veteran players where you're having to actually negotiate what you pay them, Geno Smith's contract was the best in the NFL. Kind of say Baker Mayfield was close, but it was also like $10 million more a year. Like it was pretty big. So I think if Sam Darnold is close to the player he was in Minnesota last year for Seattle, I don't think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be the best contract for a veteran quarterback in the NFL, and he's 27 years old. So I love that. And then this is him talking about his expectations about being in Seattle.
For you?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it's, understanding, learning the playbook. Me and Clint Kubiak, the offensive coordinator there, have had a ton of conversations about, kind of what that looks like. And it's really fun to just be able to, take some of the things that that we really worked together with in San Francisco in 23. Some of the stuff that, he worked with, or got to learn, I guess, in New Orleans last year. And kind of the stuff that I learned last year in Minnesota, and just kind of collaborate on some of those things. And, Clint is a great offensive coordinator, great offensive mind. And obviously I got some great teammates to be able to share the field with and make my job a lot easier.
Yeah.
So good stuff there from Sam Darnold. I'm struck by the fact that a year ago, you're talking about Geno Smith working with yet another new offensive coordinator, which he had no prior relationship with, and really no one on the offensive coaching staff that he had really a prior relationship with. And now you're talking about Sam Darnold. First thing he talks about is the OC, who he's got a prior relationship with. He spent a year in San Francisco with Clint Kubiak. They're going to collaborate. That's the word he used. And things that he picked up in Minnesota, things that Clint has obviously learned in his time at Minnesota, at New Orleans, and so forth. I think familiarity is kind of the key word for the Seahawks this year, especially on offense, that just wasn't there last year. And I think it's going to be a key word throughout the football team, because Mike Macdonald's going to be more familiar with being a head coach. The whole defensive roster is going to be more familiar with Mike Macdonald's scheme, how to play it, how to play faster, how to play it at a more nuanced level to maybe be able to take it to the next level. Sam Darnold has probably more familiarity with this offensive coaching staff than Geno Smith did at any point with the coaching staff he had last year in Seattle. Mike Macdonald and Clint Kubiak have background, have time together. They know each other. I just think that familiarity is going to be maybe the biggest thing that the team's betting on being a difference between this team and last year's team. And I think hopefully that can breed some of the camaraderie and some of the kind of familial feel that differentiates great teams from talented teams. And I think the Seahawks, I don't think anyone can argue the Seahawks are a talented team. I think where the argument is how much does that talent coalesce into something special? And so far, it's just been okay. But I think the familiarity could help it become more than that. Lots to go, lots to figure out there before the season starts. We're just a few weeks away from the draft, and then there'll be rookie mini camps. Then there'll be OTAs. I honestly don't even know the media access for these things. I remember being just dying to talk to Brady Henderson last year when he was getting a chance to see some of these players in person. I'm excited to be there in person myself this year and get my own eyes on these guys ahead of training camp. All right, there are a couple super chats. Gingerbread Man, who is now a member, which is great, says, I could see them talking with 3 Georgia linemen to get an idea of one person on that team to get information about a player from a teammate. That's true, but you're not going to generally spend a 30 visit for that reason. You're not going to fly somebody out to Seattle, spend a day with them just to talk about somebody else. I think if you were to do a combine visit, if you were to do a virtual, which they can do virtuals with these guys, that would make so much more sense as how you would utilize that as a way to kind of learn about other players. And I'm sure that they are asking about other players when they do these conversations, for sure. So I think that comes up, but I do not think that that's probably the primary reason that they visit with these guys. All right. With that, should we do a quick mock? You guys want to do a quick mock? Let's see. I might save those for tomorrow for Jeff. Going once, going twice. All right, somebody wants a mock. We'll do a quick mock. We're going to do mock draft. Which mock draft should we use today? Let's use mock draft database. All right. We're going to kind of switch in between sims day after day after day. So let's do mock draft database. Let's do a quick mock draft and see who we end up with today. And since visits were part of the focus for today, let's kind of think about guys that they've visited with as we do this, all right? So here we go. And we are at pick 18. All right, everybody, you're right. Everyone's been saying that you can scroll. There's no indication here that you can scroll, by the way. There's no scroll bar. I would want my UI designer to explain themselves why there is no scroll bar here. But yes, at least now we know that we can look back to see who was drafted. So Shamar Stewart's gone. You heard Jared Wilson talk about Walter Nolan. Kevin Banks is gone. Membu to the Bears. Ugh, gosh. The Bears are going to be a team that just annoys me because they've done so much this offseason I wish the Seahawks would have done. But here we are at 18. And this is going to be something that a lot of people are going to want the Seahawks to take Tet McMillan. I'm just not down with it. Todd Campbell's there. Colston Loveland's there. Emmett Warry's there. Gray Zabel's there. Donovan Jackson. I'm not going to do my normal. I'm going to go a little different. I'm going to go Griff Sturgeon. We're going to go Colston Loveland. Daniel Jeremiah as well. Had Colston Loveland as the pick. And if Colston Loveland, if that was Tyler Warren, I think most folks would be freaking out excited. If Colston Loveland is equivalent to Tyler Warren, then I don't think that's a terrible pick. And I think combining Loveland with AJ Barner isn't a bad way to go. But I just want to kind of go a different direction than what I normally do. Here we are at pick 50, and there's Donovan Jackson sitting there, as well as Siobhan Revell Jr. So I am sprinting to the podium to take Donovan Jackson. And then here's a tough one. Here we are at pick 52. Siobhan Revell Jr. is a really good pick there at corner. Tyleik Williams is a really good pick there at defensive tackle. And then you've got Mason Taylor at tight end. Those are some really, really appealing options right there. Now we've gone offensive line and tight end. So I do kind of, we don't need another tight end. We don't need Mason Taylor, so we can take him off the list. I think between Siobhan Revell Jr. and Tyleik Williams, I just want to go beef. Like I always want to go that direction. There's not a lot of other good corners in this draft, though. And so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to trust some of the depth at the defensive line position, and I'm going to take Siobhan Revell Jr., the cornerback, because the depth at corner really empties out in this class much more than it does defensive line. All right, so now we are here at pick 82. Speaking of depth at defensive line, TJ Sanders still available. Jalen Knoll available. Tate Ratledge available. Olufemi Oladejo. Cam Scattaboo. Omar Norman Lott. To me, that's probably my pick right here. Jared Wilson available. So what I'm most likely going to do here, like Jalen Noel is a very tough player to pass on in this situation. I think I'm going to take Jalen Noel. I'm going to roll the dice a little bit. And then at 92, we're going to find out. So Omar Norman-Lott's there, and so is Jared Wilson. So is Savion Williams. By the way, these are all guys that the Seahawks, I don't know about Colston Loveland, but all these other guys they've met with. So I'm kind of deciding between Omar Norman-Lott, Tyler Shuck, Jared Wilson. I'm not going to take Tyler Shuck here. Savion Williams they've met with multiple times, I believe. So I think Jared Wilson's my guy, but Omar Norman-Lott, ooh, it is really tough. It's really tough. I gotta, man. This is as tough as it gets, guys, because I think Omar Norman-Lott's the more sure bet. Jared Wilson is adding to an area that you need to add to. Man, I'm gonna go with Jared Wilson. Oh, that's a tough one. That was a really tough one. It really hurt to not pick Omar Norman-Lott, but I think getting the center and the guard was good. Okay, Jordan Phillips, another good. I think that's probably my pick here as someone who can really actually play a gap for you. He's incredibly strong. Jamari Caldwell is still there. He's also an A gap guy. So we could go Caldwell. We could go Jordan Phillips. That's a tough one. We've got Savion Jones, the edge rusher, who I like. That might be a way to go as well. We've already got our corner, so we don't need Zoff Frazier as much. Man, this is tough. I think that I go with Jamari Caldwell. Well, I just really like who Jordan Phillips is. I'm taking Jordan Phillips. I think he's not only going to be a powerful person in the middle of that line, but he's a great leader. So I love who he is and adding him to the room. Now we here at pick 172, these back-to-back pretty much fifth-round picks. Ty Felton, the receiver, interesting guy. Kobe Bryant, corner, double up on corner. Ollie Gordon, the running back. Jalen Travis is really... Jaden Blue might go that way. JJ Pegues. I think that's where we're going here, guys. I think I'm taking JJ Pegues as a guy who's also a defensive lineman, but can play fullback for you. So JJ Pegues, I haven't had a chance to take him for a while. And then, I mean, I think I want to take Jaden Blue just as a playmaker. We have not taken our swing tackle yet. There's Chase Lunt, Cam Jackson, Jalen Conyers. There's Clay Webb way down there. Oh, and there's Dante Thornton, who I'm starting to warm to as a speedster at X receiver. So I think Jalen Travis is the best way to go here, but I'm going to add Dante Thornton. Jaden Blue is probably the better pick, but Dante Thornton adds a type of receiver the Seahawks, MVS is the only guy that they really have that fits that. And I think Dante Thornton is a good flyer this late. Okay, so here we are at pick 223. We've got Willie Lampkin. Certainly would be an interesting name here. Isaac Tesla, the receiver. I think in the 7th round, I'd go that direction. Any guys that they've met with? Let's check that out. I know they met with Jalen Conyers, so maybe we'll take Jalen Conyers. They met with Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon. I'm just not a fan. He's just not athletic enough for my taste. Not a lot of names left that are great here. We have not taken a linebacker. I mean, Cam Jackson is the easy pick because I love him as a nose. We have already taken 2 defensive linemen, so I'm a little bit hesitant to take another. We've already taken someone who can, we've already taken tight end, and I just don't know. Like, they met with Willie Lampkin at the Senior Bowl. Let's take, so Isaac Tesla, they met with at the Senior Bowl, so Cam Jackson. I'm going to take Cam Jackson, even though we've already taken a couple defensive linemen. I just think he's the best option there. And then I'm going to take, let's see, any of these other names that they've met with. Well, they met with Willie Lampkin, so why not? I mean, we haven't, there's a lot of positions we have not taken, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. We're going to take Willie Lampkin. And there is our very, very, let me save this for a second so I hopefully can see it a little bit better. That is a heavyweight draft class. All right. Colston Loveland, speedy playmaking tight end, Donovan Jackson, guard, Siobhan Revelle Jr., the cornerback, Jalen Knoll, receiver, Jared Wilson, center, Jordan Phillips, defensive tackle, JJ Pegues, defensive tackle, also a fullback and Wildcat quarterback, formerly a tight end, really versatile athlete. Dante Thornton, 4.3040 at 6'4.5". Just basically a long ball threat. I think he and MVS are very similar. Cam Jackson, the defensive tackle, the true nose tackle, 340 pounds, and Willie Lampkin. Kind of funny to take those two back to back because Cam Jackson's the only guy that won a rep against Willie Lampkin in 1v1s the week of the Senior Bowl, and they joked about it together. So very trench heavy, and you could say, hell, you missed on safety, you missed on running back, you missed on linebacker. All those things are fair. But if the Seahawks end up just going this heavy on defensive line and offensive line, I don't think I'll be upset. Now, what I don't like, honestly, is I missed on swing tackle. There's too many good tackles, so I'm not taking one of those. But I don't hate this draft. I think there's a lot of upside to this class and a lot of strength. And where it's not strong, it's incredibly fast. Revelle, Knoll, Thornton, those guys are speed merchants. Loveland as well. I don't hate it, guys. Don't hate it. All right, so that is another mock. We'll be back with you tomorrow with Jeff Simmons for Seahawks Saturday. We will see you all then. Until then, I'm Brian Nemhauser. This has been another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. Take care. Have a great rest of your day.